Yes, it's another chef, but you're gonna like this. You're going to really love these guys, and one can never be sure if characters play a bigger role than the food, although you'll learn that they're deadly serious about their grub.
You're gonna notice that in the dishes you're about to have. We like to incorporate some weird if you want to call it that, ways to look at fruit or different flavor profiles, which sometimes people are not used to. That's thanks to this man who's great at cooking salads and making weird combinations. That's what makes the team work, you know? He's the artist, he's a crazy one, and I'm more into being OCD and trying to control everything, which I cannot. But that's how we get along, that's how the restaurant has worked. Luckily, we were voted number 40 and 50 best LATAM within less than a year of opening. We still don't know how we managed that. And well, that's us. That's what we do. Hopefully you'll enjoy your lunch. I'm not sure if this guy would like to add anything else.
Not really.
And well, welcome.
Thank you.
And it's all they pretty well much live for, rather than be businessmen. Or, of course, the all-too-frequent McDonald's after work. It's another in the series of renowned chefs making an appearance at the Capital Club in Bahrain. Once again, this time they are from South America, one Argentinian, the other Mexican. But they own and both work together in Bogota in Colombia at restaurant Villanos on Bermudas, which ranks high in the top 50 best restaurants in South America. As part of the Capital Club's community program, whereby they introduce wannabe Bahraini chefs to these world-class professionals, often giving these students a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to meet and learn from the masters. Seen here, the lunch being hosted by General Manager Sumit Jahingan, as the media sat down to sample this somewhat very far from South American cuisine. BIHR, or Bahrain Institute for Hospitality and Retail, is a body that facilitates the students, and when possible, work close with the Capital Club, which acts as a small but very worthy cog in the wheel that furthers the students' culinary education. So let's try and get a word out of Chef Nicolás López, as Chef Sergio Meza modestly takes proceedings.
Believe it or not, in Spanish, this guy speaks 10 times more than I do.
Yeah, that happened.
So let's find out more about the Villanos on Bermudas menu. What menu? Again, these two character chefs are so inadvertently part of the menu. So one must ask, what is the essence of their product?
The essence of our product, in the end, well, it has to be deliciousness at some point. Because no matter if you cook with the greatest technique or if it's just your grandma making some stew, it needs to be tasty. What we do is we like to change things up. In Colombia, people do not go out and eat for the sake of experiencing something new. They just go out for comfort food. They will go to the same restaurant for 30 years and just have one dish and never order anything different. What we do is we change things all the time, every time. So sometimes a table that's next to each other, they can have a different menu. It all depends on the product that we get, because it's all organic wherever we can find it. So those farmers, they don't have that much production as a regular farmer would, because organic is quite a pain in the neck to get it right. So they will come up with us and say, okay, we have 10 kilos of beets, 5 kilos of carrots, and 3 kilos of celery. So we'll take that and we'll plan the menu accordingly. Instead of saying, oh, I'm thinking of this, then you get me that no matter what. Sometimes it's sheer luck. Sometimes it's just for the sake of trying to do something different. But for example, Nico always goes for bitterness. So, and most people don't like bitter. But you try to think, how do I balance out bitter? Okay, maybe people tend to think it's with sweet, but it's actually with salt. But salt, then you have to balance it out with acidity, and acidity with sweet. So the four things actually do end up making sense. It doesn't matter if it's the something you would call a normal or a common component in a dish, because sometimes adding berries to scallops can make sense at some point if it adds the correct sweetness or acidity to it, because the rest of things complement it. It's like flavor bouncing. What goes well with this? What goes well with that? Therefore, the third thing can go well with the first one, and you can remove the second one, which would be the common link between them, but in the end it does make sense. So you need to look at it from a really bigger picture. You need to step away from the frame. Sometimes we know combinations will work. I mean, there's no point in tasting eggs with truffles, because that's going to be delicious. Or beef with jus and butter, that's always going to be delicious. But for example, the scallops and the coconut, we've tried it. Sometimes we screwed up that several times while making it in Bogota. Then we figured out the way to make it work properly, and it makes sense. Some dishes we don't taste because we know they'll work. Some other, when we taste them, we can like scrap that, and we start over again. Yes, and sometimes they're based on classical dishes as well. I mean, I think today you had a dish that was asparagus with sauce hollandaise, salted salmon roe, and pear. If you analyze it, that's as French as it goes. Ingredients, we only use things that are available in Colombia, not imported. So if we find a guy that grows kale, we will use kale, but if not, we're not going to bring it out from the US or Canada or something like that. And we like using fruit, as Nico said. We always try to keep fruit in our menu because Colombia has such insane fruits, such amazing fruits going on. Sometimes you can mix it with savory. People use them for juice and dessert, or breakfast even, not even dessert. And we implement it in salads. We mix it with fish. We mix it with beans, with pork, with any kind of thing we want, as long as it makes sense, because we can't just do things for the sake of being different, because that's not very tasty. Yeah, sometimes we do them smaller.
10 dishes.
I'm pretty sure you've had it. Sometimes you go to a restaurant and they start sending things. And all of a sudden the main course comes and you're like, oh my God. We don't want that feeling, because in the end it's dinner. If it were lunch, then you can live with it because you have the rest of the day to burn it out. But for dinner, when you have that sinking feeling that your body hurts out of eating so much, you say like, oh, stop, I don't want any more. We want people to walk out satisfied but not stuffed. We're not against meat. I mean, whenever we get a good chunk of meat, we enjoy it, of course. That's amazing. Who doesn't enjoy a proper steak? Vegans, of course, but that's not the point. But the thing is, a good steak will always taste like steak. It's easy, it's slutty, it gives you what you want whenever you want it. That's not what we want to accomplish. Because, you know, getting something out of vegetables can be a bit more complicated than just getting something out of meat, because I could roast a piece of meat, do no garnish, just salt and pepper, and it's going to be tasty. But if I give you a boiled leek, you're going to feel like, what the hell's wrong with you, kid? So we want that leek to have the same gastronomical value as the steak or as a lobster. Everything is worth the same gastronomically. It doesn't matter if it's more expensive than the other one. That's what we want people to notice. Why would something be, for example, a sardine and caviar? If you get a good sardine sandwich, that's going to blow you out of the water. If you just have caviar on its own, you're going to hate it, honestly. That's why we focus on vegetables, because vegetables depend on the soil and how you treat them, on everything. The meat is just, okay, it's a fancy cow, did it eat properly? Then just chuck it in a pan and it's going to be good. Yes, more often than not, because sometimes people go like, oh, I don't like this, and they literally push it away, but sometimes they won't even try it. You describe the dish and they will go like, which makes no sense, because you're in a restaurant like ours to try new stuff. So unexpected stuff. In the end, I'm not sure if it happens here, but it's happened in most Latin America, for example, that people need foreigners to acknowledge what's inside for them to like it. Like it happened to us in Chile. I used to work in a place called Borago. And everyone from Chile that went there said, oh, that's shit food, we hate it, that's not real food, those herbs don't mean anything. And then all the Spanish people, the Nordic people, the European guys in general, and Americans came in, they had dinner and they enjoyed it. All the journalists, and they told their Chilean peers, like, why are you looking outside when you have this in here? And then Chileans started saying, oh yes, we've always been proud of this restaurant, which is absolute baloney. So they're just expecting for someone outside to recognize it. And that sort of happened to us because all the chefs, all the journalists, everyone that came into Bogota for for the 50 best ceremony. They all ate there and they all loved it. And then they started telling everyone, and all of a sudden the restaurant's packed with Colombians because they want to figure out, they want to know what's so good that the foreigners voted it and they had never heard about it. So our restaurant has mostly stayed operational thanks to foreigners, other than locals. Then we have a couple regular locals that, as it happens all the time, but it's mostly foreigners that kept the restaurant afloat in the first year of operation. It depends on where, because people think it's only meat, but I think he can attest to that better than I can.
No, it depends of the regions, area. Where I'm from the north, it's more, it's between the Spain and we have a lot from the Arabian people too, where I'm from, and obviously from the Aborigines. It's Francis Malman is a big chef, says it's the best cuisine in Argentina because it's more typical and it's a long time we prepare. But it's not only meat. We have a lot of other things.
Colombian food is it's a really interesting and complicated thing to get into because it's really rich in carbs, and they could have meat with a garnish of meat and they will be happy. They don't eat vegetables except, rice, beans and fried plantains. I think that's as far as they go. It's not the best cuisine in South America. For example, Argentine food is outrageous. When we were in Argentina, we ate differently every day and it was crazy. Peruvian food is crazy as well. And Mexican food, well, I can't even begin to explain how much I like that. Mm-hmm. It's not even because I'm Mexican, because I do enjoy it. But Colombian people don't eat spicy food at all. That mole would have killed everyone over there. We don't have the logistics to manage a wine pairing yet because we have the same philosophy for wines as we do for food. We try to make small producers, organic wherever possible, and Colombia has this really silly import laws, which makes it super complicated for us to get good wine. You can all get the typical variety you get all over the world, and it's super bad, but it's expensive as well. So we sort of, I have no idea, we cut it down as much as possible. So we have a really short wine list, trying to keep it organic and small producers. So when guests come in, they go like, oh, I want Marqués de Cáceres, for example. We don't have that. We don't have the big Chilean wines or the big French wines, because they don't go according to our philosophy. So we just decide not to have it. Even though it could be good for our revenue, we decide not to because it would be being unfaithful to our concept. And we can't offer a wine pairing because we don't have the necessary staff and the necessary space to have everything ready and make it a worthwhile experience. So we decide, instead of delivering a subpar experience, we just decide not to do it at all. I think, for example, I don't like red wine. I like white, rosé, and sparkling, but I've always had an issue with red wine because I'm really keen on textures. And when you drink it, it makes my mouth feel a little dry, and I can't stand that. It's really weird. No, but this guy does drink red wine. He likes it.
Yes.
He's more of a wine drinker than I am. I like beer and gin.
Obviously, we don't.
No, that's.
But with pizza, crappy food.
You would not believe that, but yes. Takeout is a big lifesaver. In Colombia, everything is takeout. Like literally, the store at the bottom of your apartment building, people will call them because they don't want to go downstairs, and they will bring your food up, or You can just go buy something at a convenience store and they will tell you, why did you come here? Why didn't you order it for takeout? It's a big culture over there, so you can get anything. Sometimes I buy crappy pizza. Sometimes I do go out for a taco or some pasta or something like that, but never something too over the top. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Because when you cook so much, it's not like in my free time I want to make emulsified parsley with frog's legs and partridge and escabeche. No, I literally will just scramble an egg or eat a piece of fruit. It was chance. He invited me. And he got there by chance. Yeah. And he got the thing for the restaurant. He rang me and said, okay, should we do this? I'd never been, and I wanted to get out of Mexico because I'd come back to Mexico after a long time of not living there. I just noticed I'm a foreigner in my own country. And I left.
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we see each other
5 days a week.
more than we see anyone else. Yeah, it all started when I met Nico. His hair was like down to his shoulder, and mine was really short because I had a really serious job, so I had to be like all tidy, clean cut all the time. And then when he cut his hair, it turns out it looks like that. I never knew. And when I grew it, well, it's like this. It's always been like this. People tend to think we do things to our hair so it looks like that, and it actually is the entire opposite. I don't do anything to it. No, it actually came out as sort of backfired on us. We said, okay, yeah, let's try and be against what everyone is doing at some point, just to sort of prove a point. But everyone in the end just wanted to go to the restaurant to see the curly-haired guys cooking. That did backfire on us. And Nico, you know, Argentines are famous for having a rather heavy, not heavy personality, but very straightforward. People sometimes say, oh, Nico is so rude, he's so angry at everyone. But that's just him. It's him. He is actually being nice, but he doesn't sugarcoat things. For example, in Colombia, people will never say no to anything. For example, hey, would you like to go to this party? And you just, no, sorry, I don't feel like going out. I'll stay home. Thank you very much for inviting me. You're so rude. Why? They will go like, oh, no, sorry, because I have a commitment that day, and I have my mother's birthday party, and my grandma's gonna die, and I'm gonna get sick that day as well, so sorry, no, I don't think I can make it. Or even they will say yes, and on the same day they will start canceling on you, inventing stupid shit. So when we say no to things, they're like, oh, you're so rude, you're so mean. Well, we could not have another Villanos because it's like our brainchild. So extrapolating that onto someone else, that would be an entirely different restaurant. So what we think is maybe investing in the talent or in different concepts, because this kind of restaurant is not a proper it's a business because it works, it moves cash and everything, but it's not very profitable. It actually has a very low profit margin. So once you get a certain name or reputation, you can open several other concepts that are guaranteed to work, hopefully. So we always thought about making something more casual, like a taco place or a fried chicken place or a roast chicken place or just a tortilla shop, something like that. Not big restaurants like we're not Jean-Georges or Daniel Boulou that they have 15 different kinds of bistros and they're all pricey and expensive and beautiful and high-end. We actually want to strive away from that because restaurants like these are way too demanding and you have to be on top of it. It's like raising a kid. And honestly, if we don't have kids, why would we want to be raising a kid? Because it's a business in the end. It doesn't matter how artsy and how romantic everything can seem. You have to live out of something.